Hi everyone, welcome to Bonnie Caroline Makes Cards. Today I am featuring Simon Says Stamps Quintuple Slider with some of their older stamp sets. This tutorial focuses on the card using stacking animals, but I am also showing a couple of cards using the stamp sets Beautiful Mermaids and Wild Cuddly Critters. I began by ink smooshing a couple of panels. I used Distress Oxide inks, Ice Spruce, Bundled Sage, Evergreen Bough, and Peacock Feathers. I like to apply the color one at a time. In this way, I have a bit more control over where that color goes. My preference is to try to evenly distribute each of the four colors. I'm working on Neenah Solar White Classic Crest 110 pound cardstock. I am being careful with the amount of water that I am using when I apply it to the ink. I apply just enough to get that color moving. Too much water would result in warped panels. I chose to finish up my ink smooshing with Ice Spruce. Ice Spruce is a beautiful gray-green. It helps to tone down some of the bright colors. When my panels were completely dry, I did a quick layout just to get an idea of how things were going to go together in this card. Once I die cut the pull-up panel, I laid out the track die on my other panel. The die that cuts the tracks has a side where the tracks are staggered and the other side where they are completely even. It is the even side that needs to be at the top of your panel. My main sentiment for this card is a die cut, Hey Mama. It is a two-part die set with the shadow and the script. My plan is to have the sentiment inset. After die cutting the shadow from the main panel, I use that die cut to cut my sentiment. The secondary sentiment, Congratulations, was stamped with VersaFine ink. Everything that needed to be done ahead of time is now complete and I'm ready to work on the slider mechanism. The slider panel is attached to the back of the card. The tabs on this panel are standing straight up. I find it easier to use the craft pick to help push that tab through the slot on the other panel. Once the first set of tabs is attached, the rest follows a lot more easily. This is definitely a case of practice makes perfect. By the time I was on my third slider, I was becoming quite good at this. I did spend a little bit of time moving that panel up and down until that mechanism was smooth. I used a combination of thin foam tape and foam squares to back my panel. These thin foam strips from Stampin' Up! Were perfect for this card. They are, however, thicker than the other products that I had on hand. Staying well away from the mechanism area, I filled in some of the more open areas of the card with foam squares. These I had to double up so that they would be the same depth as the foam strips. It may appear to you that I've gone a bit overboard with the foam. Most of my cards go through the mail. The last thing I want is a card being crushed and the recipient not being able to slide the panel up and down. So there you go, foam overboard. This panel is then attached directly to the card base. All of my card bases are made from Neenah Solar White Classic Crest 110 pound cardstock. This cardstock produces a nice sturdy card base. Next, I inlay my sentiments Hey Mama. The Quintuple Slider die set also comes with a directional die to prompt the recipient to pull the slider up. I use this die to die cut both white and mint green cardstock. The white circle with the inlaid green arrow is attached to the pull tab. In preparation for the elements, I cut small pieces of foam from the foam strips and add it to the tabs. After the foam pieces have been added, I double check just to make sure that the sliding mechanism has not been impeded by them. With my card base completed, it is now time to work on the elements that will be added to the slider. These elements, of course, can come from any stamp set. I have chosen for this card the cute animals from Stacking Animals. All of the images were stamped with Versamark ink on Bristol Smooth cardstock. They were then heat embossed using white embossing powder. So admittedly, the white embossing powder on the white cardstock is a little bit tricky when it comes to the coloring. But I was really looking for that softer look that comes with the white outline. All of the images were colored with Zig markers. The color was applied to the shadow areas and then pulled out with a water brush pen. So the challenge of painting these images white on white is a real one. I am holding the cardstock off of my work surface to paint. When I tilt it towards the light, I am able to pick up the shine of the white embossing. Initially, this is a little bit awkward until I get some color on the image. Then I can go back, paint as normal, smoothing out the color and deepening the shadow areas. I don't typically buy the die sets that go with the stamps. This stamp set was before I owned a scan and cut, but I was sure glad that I had these dies. I really struggle cutting out images on a scan and cut unless they have the black outline. Any tips are welcome. When the images were cut out, I used glossy accents to give some nice shine to the animal's eyes. The pupils of the eyes were put in with black Nouveau drops. For the tinier critters, I put the Nouveau drops onto a pin and then transferred that to the eye. When the Nouveau drops were dry, I then attached the animals to the foam squares that were on the tracks. To provide more stability, I made sure that the animals slightly overlapped so that they could be glued together. I made 2 additional cards using the quintuple slider. The Beautiful Mermaids card has a variation. The addition of a panel allows the images to pop out from behind it. The card using elements from Wild Cuddly Critters is made exactly the same way as the card shown in this video. Simon Says Stamp's Quintuple Slider adds a fun interactive element to your card. I really love its versatility, and I know that the recipients, a couple of children and an expectant mother, will be very excited to receive these cards. Thanks so much for your visit. If you are viewing this on YouTube and you enjoyed the video, please give me a thumbs up.